SpaceX embarks on a difficult mission called Polaris Dawn. Boeing Starliner returns to Earth despite many issues. Latest news on RFA ONE. Starbase is flapping its wings. ESA prints first metal in space. LandSpace goes higher with its prototype Suke 3. And many launches occur this week. I'm Christophe Paget for All About Space, and this is your Space Update. Polaris Dawn mission has taken off from Cape Canaveral to achieve several tasks and reach several world records over a mission lasting 5 days in different orbits. The crew is composed of Jared Isaacman as mission commander, Scott Pottet as mission pilot, Sarah Gillis as mission specialist, and Anna Menon as mission specialist and medical officer. The hardware is basically a slightly modified SpaceX Crew Dragon capsule launched with a traditional Falcon 9. The capsule has been fitted with additional tanks to allow the gradual oxygen-rich atmosphere inside the capsule in preparation for the spacewalk. It also included a mobility aid frame at its hatch, and the crew was fitting with short tethers and umbilicals providing temperature-controlled oxygen, which will allow all crew members to go through their spacewalk. The service module has been fitted with laser communication device to allow in the first mission objective of in-space high-speed and high-bandwidth communication with the Starlink constellation used as a relay to then communicate with Earth. The second mission objective has the ambition to be the furthest crewed spacecraft in Earth orbit at 1,400 km altitude. Now, this of course does not include the Apollo missions as they were out of Earth orbit onto the Moon. Gemini 11 previously held a record at 1,368 kilometers back in 1966. The aim here was to conduct research on radiation effect on human health. The third mission objective was to be the first private extravehicular walk at 700 km above Earth using the new SpaceX mass-producible and cost-effective EVA suits. Now, this is an enabler towards missions with a larger population. Today, due to the suit costs, only a handful of spacesuits and therefore spacewalks can be carried out. As a fourth objective, the crew will also carry out 4 human health studies in space, and the last and all perhaps more impactful mission is to raise funds for St. Jude's Children's Research Hospital as for Inspiration 4 mission back in December 2021. You may have heard in many reports, including this channel, that the Boeing Starliner capsule docked at the ISS since 6th of June 2024 had suffered some technical issues with 5 of their thrusters and helium leaks. Sonny Williams and Butch Wilmore were the test crew for this vehicle and were requested to stay at the ISS instead of returning with the Starliner. Exactly 3 months later, Boeing was requested to free the docking port to allow the next crew mission SpaceX Dragon Crew 9 to join the ISS and be as well the rescue vehicle for Sonny and Butch. The Starliner has successfully undocked the ISS and safely returned to Earth and landed in New Mexico as planned. So one slight issue though is one of the 12 RCS thrusters failed. Now these are not the same which failed previously, as those were in the service module. This one was on a crew module, but a single failure does not pose a threat during re-entry. Hindsight is a great thing, but NASA preferred reducing any risks or fatalities, and the thruster issue on the re-entry could have been worse than it had. So Sonny and Butch will return with the Crew 9 capsule in February 2025, along with NASA commander and pilot Nick Hague and cosmonaut mission specialist Alexander Gorbunov. RFA has lost last month the first stage of his RFA ONE destined for maiden flight. According to NASA spaceflight J. Keegan, the UK Civil Aviation Authority, or CAA, has confirmed that there is no CAA investigation required into the anomaly of RFA's first stage at Saxonwold Spaceport last month. The agency and SAIA determined this anomaly was not a spaceflight accident under UK legislation. The agency confirmed they are engaging closely with RFA and Saxonwold to ensure lessons are learned. At Starbase, at the production site, we could peep on the Star Factory windows, a Starship V2 nose cone nearing completion. Now, the office building is now being extended on the opposite side of the Star Factory. Starship 31, the one destined to flight on IFT 6, has not got all its thermal protection tiles replaced yet, but however was transported to Massey site for further tests. Indeed, at Massey site, Starship number 31 has undergone a spin prime test, meaning that SpaceX tested its engines and the fuel flow without any ignitions. At the launch site, SpaceX was testing the booster catch method with his Mechazilla Tower 1 arms or chopsticks. It is very impressive to see that without the booster, and yet I cannot begin to imagine how incredible it will be with the booster, regardless if it succeeds or fails. Something I did not notice until this footage from NSF is that the tower section around the booster catch position has been reinforced with additional plates pointed out to you right now. Even more scary is the tower movement with just the chopsticks arms momentum when they close. It will be interesting to see that tower oscillation amplitude during the booster catch. However, SpaceX announced that the FAA will not be able to provide a launch license for IFT 5 until November this year. Metal 3D printing is not new. It requires a very large and heavy machine and lots of energy to run it, at least on Earth. Yet, ESA has managed to 3D print metal in space at the ISS for the first time. The technology demonstrator built by Airbus and its partners was launched to the International Space Station at the start of this year, where ESA astronaut Andreas Mogensen installed the payload in the European drawer rack of ESA's Columbus module. In August, the printer successfully printed the first 3D metal shape in space. This product, along with 3 other planned during the rest of the experiments, will return to Earth for quality analysis. As exploration of the Moon and Mars will increase mission duration and distance from Earth, resupplying spacecraft will be more challenging. Additive manufacturing or 3D printing in space will give autonomy for the mission and its crew, providing a solution to manufacture needed parts, to repair equipment, or even construct dedicated tools on demand during the mission, rather than rely on resupplies and redundancies. ESA's technology demonstrator is the first to successfully print a metal component in microgravity conditions. In the past, the International Space Station has hosted plastic 3D printers and also 3D printed organs to benefit from the microgravity in simplifying the 3D printing build-up. The same applies to metal. Today, we have to print support fixtures to allow the printed parts to stay still, despite gravity trying to pull it down. So manufacturing space is expected to be even simpler. LandSpace has successfully tested this week its latest booster prototype, the Tsuke-3 launch vehicle, a partially reusable liquid oxygen and liquid methane powered rocket. The prototype is 3.35 meters in diameter and 18.3 meters in length, made in high-strength stainless steel material. It conducted a 10-kilometer vertical takeoff and vertical landing about 3.2 kilometers away at the Xiongquan Satellite Launch Center in China. The flight lasted 200 seconds, and LandSpace expects its maiden orbital launch of its Tsuke-3 sometime in 2025 and to demonstrate its reusability by 2026. The week of rocket launches started in September 6th with a launch from SpaceX of his Falcon 9 from California for his mission NROL 113. The first stage flew for his 20th time and landed on the drone ship. On September 10th, SpaceX finally launched his next most ambitious mission after the Starship program, of course, the Polaris Dawn atop a Falcon 9 from Florida. The first stage flew for the fourth time and landed on a drone ship. On September 11th, Roscosmos launched a Soyuz 2.1A from Kazakhstan for a crewed mission MS-26 to the ISS to replace the MS-25 crew departing on September 24th after the 12 days handover. The next day, SpaceX launched a Starlink mission Group 6-9 from California atop a Falcon 9. The booster flew for his 18th time and landed on a drone ship. The last launch of the week was a SpaceX Falcon 9 for his mission Bluebird Block 1 out of Florida. The first stage flew for his 13th time and landed back to site. In summary, from January 1st until September 12, 2024, 167 rockets were launched successfully. Out of that, 107 were from an American company or institution and 10 from a Russian company or institution. I leave you this week with pictures from the ESA-JAXA probe called Bepi-Colombo spacecraft, currently flying by Mercury as of September 4th. You can see many geological features in the South Pole and around, including the peak rings, basins, Vivaldi, and the newly named one, Stoddard. The pictures are taken from 165 km from Mercury. The spacecraft will gradually get into Mercury's orbit to analyze it in more detail. This probe was sent in October 2018 and will finally reach Mercury's stable orbit in November 2026 and will study Mercury until April 2029. We have to be patient in cosmology, I'm afraid. I'm Christophe Paget for All About Space. Have a great week and goodbye.